between a VA with a lot of certification or education, let's say for studying skills as a VA, and somebody who's actually doing it, have something to show that they're doing it, the one doing it has a greater advantage. Because for the main reason that the client wants to see you work, or to see your work, or to see you work.
How are you doing, everyone? Welcome to the Angel VA Show. It's me, Victoria, and I will be your host for this series. In this episode, I will be joined by Miss Wendy, our General Manager, who has been handling Outsourcing Angel's recruitment team currently. She has been friends and been together with our CEO, Lynn Podetti, for over 10 years now, and that work relationship eventually developed into friendship as well. That also means she has all the experience to help you aspiring VAs navigate through the VA industry successfully. That's exactly why we have been collecting questions from you, and we've compiled as much questions as we can fit into this session for Miss Wendy to answer. Excited? So am I. So without further ado, let's go meet her. Welcome to the Angel VA Show. How are you?
Hi, Victoria. Busy day, Monday. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and be our first guest in this first episode. As I've mentioned earlier, as I've introduced you, you already has been working as a remote worker for over 10 years now. And I would like to ask, what inspired you to start your career as a virtual assistant 10 years ago? And how did you get your first client?
Okay, so first of all, like many mommy VAs, it's my son. Of course, we all know we had been there, like the daily grind, the commutes and all. And it was really like having that time to spend to your son and to the job, especially that I'm a single parent. So that is what allowed me to be both, to be a present parent, especially when he's growing up, until such time that he's not requiring so much of my attention, and me being able to like take my career further, if you know what I mean. Now, for my first job, actually, I worked in a BPO before. I'm a copywriter. I got my first job piggybacking from a friend of a friend, like a writing gig. It pays 50 pesos. I didn't care. I'm there for the experience. I didn't even know if it works. It was circa 2006, 2007.
Thank you for sharing, Miss Wendy. I can relate so much. It's finding the balance between how can you take care of your child while also being able to earn money.
Exactly.
So with this 10 years of experience, Miss Wendy, what can you say is the biggest challenge that you have encountered as a virtual assistant, and how did you overcome this?
Well, it's always going to be anticipating the needs of your client. I also had my share of years wherein it was hard for me to retain a client that is ongoing, especially that I needed when I decided to focus on freelancing like virtual assistant. It was hard to go from job to job because everybody offers like contractual for a copywriter. Then I discovered I have to branch out. Like I have to do administrative support. I have to do other things. I have to be useful in some other areas so that they can retain me. You just have to be smart about where you position yourself so that you have like an income stream that is regular, if you know what I mean. To be honest, I didn't put my eyes so much on the money because I know I'm a hard worker. As long as I get, let's say, 5 contracts, whatever, it's good enough for me. And a lot of times you overcome the hurdles of freelancing by having discipline. You have to have your priorities straight. Because of course, there's always going to be family, but you have to have boundaries for, how much you allow yourself to be disturbed, especially when you're working. So that's why it was a very conscious effort for myself, especially I'm alone. I don't have help. I don't have a husband to like pass on the kid. So for me, it's like never underestimate the intelligence of your son or your kid to understand boundaries, because I really sat him down. You like Jollibee, right? You like these things. You like mama to provide for you. You don't want to be sent to grandma. You want to live with mama, right? So you have to work with me, son. Like when I'm in front of the computer, I'm not playing, I'm working. And so he knows that there is a time for him and there's a time for work, and that when I'm facing the computer, it's business. they are allowed to come to you. And I think one thing that became a non-negotiable for me when I had like an ongoing job is it's my time for me to send off the son, like because there are like services for school. It's like it only takes 5 minutes. Same thing when they arrive, the world stands still. It's a moment.
That's great. I hope you guys have your notes out because Miss Wendy is already giving out advice so early in the video.
Oh,
So
sorry.
I can only imagine, Miss Wendy, the difference of the industry 10 years ago versus now. Today, we already have
Mhm.
a lot of new tools, technology, AI, and stuff. So
Mhm.
how does it look like with you dealing with these changes over the time?
For somebody who started doing everything manually, it is a welcome change for us, like the earlier VAs, because it hastened the work, the tedious ones, especially the ones about proofreading, creating emails. We have AI now, but not really like dependent on the tool to do the work for you, but to refine it for you. There's a difference between dependency and like complementary. Complementary is what I take it from all these available tools, because at the end of the day, you have to have the final say. The company you're working for is paying you for your input. And although they allow these tools to hasten the work for you.
Thank you, Miss Wendy. We have some questions here, especially sent from our VAs. We have a few questions here from Trisha. She wants to know what additional certifications or trainings can enhance a virtual assistant's career prospects.
In reality, fundamentals is, building blocks of fun. However, it doesn't end there. To be honest, as a recruiter here at Outsourcing Angel, certifications, they have a weight, but it's the portfolio that actually carries you more. Between a VA with a lot of certification or education, let's say for studying skills as a VA, and somebody who's actually doing it, have something to show that they're doing it, the one doing it has a greater advantage. Because for the main reason that the client wants to see you work, or to see your work, or to see you work, if you know what I mean. They are not even impressed of whatever college degree you finished. At the end of the day, they are particular about whether you can do the job and you can show that you can do the job. And when it comes to finally meeting with the client, you can leverage from your portfolio, the way you explain your journey from achieving certain level of proficiency, let's say in graphic design, copywriting. It's better to show them than to tell about them, or even just have a certificate to say you can do it, because they would rather see you do it.
And since you are currently handling the recruitment team in Outsourcing Angel, Miss Wendy, is this exactly the way you filter out candidates as well?
Well, it depends on the client, of course. There are clients who would like to hire somebody who has a background in finance, let's say that, or has anything related to the health medical field. It depends on the preference of the client. And in that case, the college degree matters. However, the skills certification doesn't so much, unfortunately. But because the reality is, it depends on your portfolio. Because ultimately, whatever you learn there wouldn't be relevant if you cannot have anything to show, like as a product of the learning.
Yes, totally get that. Thank you so much, Miss Wendy. Another question from Trisha is, what are the best ways to negotiate higher pay or better contracts with clients? Do you have like a secret method? Any tips?
Yeah. Well, it's not complicated actually. The quality of the questions you ask during the interviews, let's say with us, meaning the recruitment team and then the client, speaks so much about your proficiency or your level, where you're at. Let's say you're a social media manager, you're a copywriter, an executive assistant. The questions that you ask speaks so much about your experience. So it's just being smart about your question and being smart about aligning your portfolio and whatever you speak about during that interview, to the job that you are applying for. But at least they have to ask the quality questions, meaning questions that are related to the job, questions that would allow the VA to get to know more about the role and the client and the business, and more importantly, the expectations that go with it. And I think one thing more is, if you can even break down what you need to achieve as a VA in a timeline, because that could also guide the client, like, okay, so I'm going to be investing in this VA. If this is the person I hired, okay. And then, oh, this is her asking rate. I mean, they are someone who have done this before. That's why they even bring out like timeline, KPI, project expectation, project budget. See, those are things that you get from experience. So the quality of questions sometimes commands better pay, better rate, better everything.
That's awesome. I also learned something new today. So, lesson learned, guys, during interviews. Don't just let the client ask all the questions. Prepare your own questions as well, sensible and related questions.
Yes.
That will reflect your experience and expertise. That's great. Another question here, Miss Wendy, is, which is what we all want, all of us. Can you share any tips for building long-lasting relationships with clients? As, of course, you yourself, you've been in a friendly relationship with Miss Lynn for so long now too.
I think there are people who can build friendships or like rapport very instantly with a client. I am not someone who's like that. So I make up for my lack of tact or like, I don't know, ease in conversation by doing hard work. So whenever I start a job, I don't have an expectation whether this would last, let's say, 3 months or so and so. My main focus is really to understand the role and fulfill what I'm hired for. Because I know that when I fulfill that, then I can assure 3 more months, 3 more months, 3 more months. I build mini goals for myself, like for this quarter, for this time, for this month. How did I fare at assisting my client and doing my job? How did I anticipate the needs of the client? Something that isn't done or told to me directly, like something I thought of. So what I'm trying to say is that you should never look at any job as something that could be long-term from the very start, because it depends on you, to be honest. And it depends on a lot of other things, because if you fulfill the role that you're hired for, and if you do a good job at expanding where you can service the client more, because the big thing about freelance work or virtual assistant work is trust. If you don't establish that very early on, your services and interaction with the client and their business will be very limited. That's why I always tell the VAs during the orientation, always make sure that you put emphasis on building trust with the client by over communicating, transparency, documenting your work, yada, yada, yada. So, because if you don't cover that, you can never see yourself working for this client or any other business in any long-term, projection that you could. It's just your personal take. It takes two. And believe it or not, even if the client doesn't have the budget to extend your service, if they see you doing more of what you do, or like anticipating the need, even before they thought of it. Let's say, I experienced this during the contractual work I did. Because when my work is almost done, let's say it's like a month project writing, I always ask my client, is there anything else that you'd like to explore? Like, is there any marketing you have in store for your business? Or what's your next step? What's your next whatever? Because I'd like to be upfront to apply there. I mean, I don't assume that because I did a good job initially means I get that job. I'm setting myself for disappointment. And for a lot of people, disappointment and rejection is very hard to deal with. It kills the spirit, if you know what I mean. So I'd like to have that awareness that I'm always going to be qualifying for. Even now, Victoria, even now that I'm even, years already in this same company, I don't have that mentality that I'm set for life. I'm always going to be here to prove the next quarter if I could meet it, because that mentality would set you up for something greater that you can do right now. There are a lot of discoveries that would come along the way if you have that mentality, what they call growth mindset, learner mindset, whatever, because it makes you like have that grit and continuous hustle, not really like hustle, like, you work endlessly, but you work smarter. you become better at positioning yourself to the next opportunity that would open for you. And if it's not yet open, you can express interest that you're there, whatever that is. Like regardless of what that is, I'm here for you, client. I'm here for you, business. So that's just that. There's no secret formula to having long-term relationship with a client or with any job than by always proving that you are relevant to the role.
Yeah, I think thank you for that, Miss Wendy. I think what we've learned there is, aside from, building trust and doing your job properly, is being proactive, not waiting for the client to
Yeah.
tell you what you do, and
Yes.
QC your own work. Don't wait for someone to tell you that you've made a mistake. Like,
Exactly.
QC
Yes.
your own work.
And never have the assumption that you're in it for the long run, because you have to earn every step of the way. That's why I have high respect for those people who choose to be virtual assistants full-time, freelancers full-time, because this is what makes this job really challenging and worthwhile.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Miss Wendy. We have another inquiry question here from Anna. She said, I want to transition from BPO setting to being a VA. However, I don't know if I have the right skill set. Will I have a shot?
Will you have a shot? You can answer the question yourself. Like I've said, the work of a virtual assistant is always going to be a personal journey. Even if other people would say, you don't have what it takes. It's the voices that you, it's the story you tell yourself. If you can make it, if you feel you can make it work, then it is possible for you. Nobody became a virtual assistant for this many years listening to somebody who said, you can't do it. You have to take the big leap. But all I can ask is that never leave your current job without a solid something to transition to. Because of course, everybody is a breadwinner these days. Everybody needs sustenance. So be smart about positioning yourself. If you're going to be transitioning from wherever to wherever, you have to assure you're going somewhere with certain footing that can get you to step one, at least. And the thing is, a lot of times when you are a virtual assistant, you figure it yourself. You are very lucky. Everybody's very lucky. Anybody who wants to be a virtual assistant these days, because there's a flood of information. There are a lot of groups that could support you. And there's no reason for you to fail other than if you tell yourself you can't do it.
Solid advice. We have another one here, Miss Wendy, and I think you're the best person to answer this because he is seeking advice about payment stuff. So this question is from Jordan. He said, I am a virtual assistant who charges a fixed monthly retainer, and I'm looking for the best way to collect my fees from my clients and put them on a subscription basis. I can't use Stripe in the Philippines, and PayPal subscriptions are too limited. I need to be able to make custom adjustments to the fees and dates like I can with Stripe. Do you have any suggestions for him?
From what I know, there is Wise set up for that, like auto debit monthly. I think they can do that as well. And to be honest, anybody who has credit card, bank account, if they could set up your bank account as well, like foreign whatever transfer on a monthly basis, it is possible. However, I think you have to work at the convenience of your client. It's really not like demanding what's convenient for you, but at least you meet the client halfway. If that means manually sending them an invoice per month, I unfortunately, it's going to be the case. But I'm sure there is a way for like Visa, whatever card payment, easy debit. I guess what limits freelancers for that is if you are standing as a business entity or like an individual that is making this complicated. And of course, the taxation rules that governs, the client's country. So there, if you have the right paperwork, there shouldn't be a problem. Bank transfers, credit card, it's just, it's the transfer fees that you have to deal with. I agree with PayPal. PayPal is very, very expensive for us because we absorb the fees, right?
Yeah.
But right now, Wise, I think, has that facility. And from what I know, there's Wise Filipinas already. So you can check them out.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Miss Wendy. So Jordan, check out Wise. So this one, our other question, Miss Wendy, nobody sent this, but this has been like the most asked questions in our social media accounts. It's being commented all over. So how to apply to OA, to outsourcing angel? Can you please explain the process and what to expect when they
Uh,
apply to us?
Okay, so most of our applicants came from Victoria's YouTube, from Lynn's YouTube. So thank you for that, by the way. Darlene, you're doing so well. Congrats, by the way. But
Thank
anyway, that's a big help. But yeah, in our website, outsourcingangel.com, there's a dedicated VA page there, wherein you can check out, like, be part of us. And then it directs you to a jobs page. So we always have there a job ads that describes the job description. If it's something that aligns to your expertise, to your proficiencies, then you can click on apply here and then fill out the form, and that's it. Now, if in 5 to 7 business days, we're not able to contact you, meaning for that week, your qualification isn't something that is a priority for recruitment. However, be rest assured that your profile and materials are already in the database. So if ever we are not able to reach you, that is because we haven't had anything that match your background, your experience, because when we recruit for clients, it's very personalized, a personalized process here. So clients would hire an executive assistant, but of course we annex them to the experiences, the business niche they supported, years of experience. You know, we listen to those unsaid words that the client have in terms of VA expectation, because we don't want to put forward anybody who's going to be set up for failure or disappointment. So meaning if we finally reach you, we're always grateful for your time. We interview you and collect some other details that the client will request. By the way, I know a lot of people are hating on Test Gorilla intro video, but believe it or not, it is very value adding to your application, because the client would like to see you, would like to see your work, would like to see your proficiency. And believe it or not, if it's never required, we will never ask it from you. Because of course, we have to understand that in the local, when they are recruiting local Australian, local US staff, they also have their pre-qualifying, steps like tests, interviews, and so and so. You should be honored to be put under these measures, because that is the equivalent of offshore staff hiring for them. And these are authorized by the client, and that's why we do it for them on their behalf. We facilitate these steps for them, but we never ask for police clearance or whatever, unless it's something that aligns to a role that has high sensitivity in data handling. I think the ones with HIPAA, the medical field, I think it makes sense if they ask for that only when the client asks, to make them feel secured somehow. But it's very seldom that we do it, and always upon the client's request.
Thank you for explaining, Miss Wendy. So, guys, that's what you can expect when you apply with us. So, to wrap up the interview, Miss Wendy, if there's just one advice you can give to someone aspiring to be a VA with us, what would be your advice for them to nail their interview, their application?
Well, you have to study the job description and then align yourself there. Because a lot of times we deal with newbies, mid-level, and then veteran VEs. And then they apply to this one job. And sometimes they forget about the job that they're applying for and went all out in impressing the client. Sometimes you have to just align yourself where you need to be. You don't need to show them and showcase everything, because that will overwhelm them. So, and then be smart about the questions you ask. Always prepare a question, and hopefully something that is not taken directly from YouTube University, that's the TikTok University, because really, it should be something that goes well in the conversation you had with the client. So a lot of times the client would end and wrap up the interviews with, do you have any questions for us? And that is your opportunity. Actually, a lot of VAs change their positioning in the client's head of, who's up and running in this race of VA application, because of the quality of questions that they ask. they thought, oh, the first one is good, but this one really asked really good questions. So this gave us an insight. Oh, he knows her stuff.
Thank you so much, Miss Wendy. That's it for our session for today. Thank you for your time.